This is not about like some sort of progressive theology. This is about spiritual renewal. This is about returning your heart to the gospel and rebuilding faith on a stronger foundation.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to a new episode of the Between You and Me podcast. My name is Jessica Morris. I am an Australian music journalist. I'm based in Australia. I live between here and Nashville, and every week we talk to a music maker about the things that hurt, heal, and change us in Christian music and evangelical culture. I started this podcast some years ago because I wanted to learn to love and understand the people in this industry better. It meant knowing not just the stories behind their songs, but their heart behind it. It meant going across political aisles, going across denominational differences, and hearing people and learning to see Jesus in them. Now, I have been so incredibly blessed to speak to some wonderful people over the years, people who have given me such great hope, not just for the church and for Christian music, but who have really, really poured into me in our interviews in a way that they don't have to. And we've talked about so many great things. And today I have, I would say, one of our biggest interviews to date with you. And I say big, not in length. This interview goes for a solid 10 minutes. It's one of our shortest ever, but probably one of our biggest or even most influential artists, and that is Lecrae. Anyone who knows anything about Christian music has probably heard about Lecrae before, even if you're not into hip-hop. I'm not into hip-hop, but I know how good Lecrae is at it. And in the last 20 years, he has really defined the genre, but he's also really redefined the conversation in contemporary Christian music and even in evangelical culture about how we address things, how we address addiction, how we address racial differences and equality, how we address politics, all sorts of things. And he's also even been brave enough, how do we address deconstruction, the current hot button topic that people either love or hate. He's looked at all of that in an internal way that makes us go, it's actually okay for me to ask my questions and share my doubts with God and throw it up in the air and see what God does with it. Because God always comes through, but it doesn't always feel like that. And he doesn't come through in the way we expect a lot of the time. Which leads me to today's interview with Lecrae, because he just released his album Reconstruction. It is an incredible album. I'm a lyrics person. I will always go to the lyrics of something to be like, is this my jam? Is this something that I really connect with? And my gosh, there's a journalist in Australia who says, do yourself a favour. And what I would say is, after this episode is finished, it won't take very long, go and find Reconstruction by Lecrae on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube. Try and listen to it from start to back, one track at a time, and just listen to the whole narrative, even if hip-hop isn't your genre, because there's an intensity and a necessity to this album that is just so pivotal, I think, to me personally, but to where we are as a people and a community of Christ followers at this time. Go and do that after you hear this interview. We're not going to hold off any longer. You're about to hear a bio about Lecrae. Hilariously, the bio might be longer than the actual interview, but, stick with me. It's worth it, right? You'll hear a little bit of one of Lecrae's tracks, and then we'll go into it. But friends, here we go. This is Lecrae. Lecrae Moore doesn't really need an introduction. This Grammy award-winning hip-hop artist, author and actor has become one of the most important and recognisable voices in Christian music over the past 2 decades. But every guest deserves a bio, so let me give you a refresher. Lecrae was raised in Denver and San Diego by his single mum. Experiencing abuse and navigating drug use and theft, he was arrested as a teen, but let go by the officer who saw that he was actually holding his grandmother's Bible, which he thought was his lucky charm. Now, over the next few years, Lecrae would go through rehab. He attended university, gaining a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences. And around this time, at 19, he went to a Bible study to impress a girl, which honestly feels like a really flawed, but in this case, entirely plausible evangelism opportunity, because Lecrae resonated with the people there so much that he actually went on to attend a Christian conference in Atlanta, and he became a Christian. It's incredible, right? Lecrae released his first album, Real Talk, in 2004. The The same year, he started Reach Records, which still exists today. Lecrae's second independent record after the Music Stops followed, before he was signed to a record label releasing Rebel. This album topped the Billboard Gospel charts and made the Billboard 200. Over time, Lecrae began gaining attention in mainstream music, and by the time he released 2010's album Rehab, he was well and truly a culture shifter in the industry. His 2012 album Gravity was called the most important album in Christian music hip-hop history by Rapzilla, and it reached number 3 on the Billboard 200. The album also picked up a Grammy, and his 2014 release Anomaly followed in success. It topped both the Billboard 200 and the Christian charts at the same time. That is wild. Now, in the years following, Lecrae signed with Columbia Records and released mixtapes, Church Clothes 1, 2 and 3, and he founded a film production organisation. He also released multiple books, including 2016's memoir, Unashamed, which made him a New York Times best-selling author, and in 2020 he released the book I Am Restored, How I Lost My Religion and Found My Faith, with another book coming out soon. Lecrae has also dabbled in acting, somehow he found time for that, appearing in Across to Bear, Believe Me, Superfly, and in the Christian film 2019's Breakthrough. Lecrae has never shied away from difficult topics in his music or his books. He is so open about his childhood, addictions, mental health and race. He has paired this with activism, or what truly just seems like a natural outpouring of his lived experience. He's partnered with prison ministries and worked with the Obama administration for their fatherhood and mentoring initiative. He's also written for multiple publications on the topics of race and injustice over many years. Earlier this year, Lecrae released his latest album, Reconstruction. This immaculate album, yes, I said immaculate and I mean it, explores church hurt, loss of faith, addiction, and more, leading listeners to the very real sense that their imperfection is okay. God can handle it, and perhaps it can even lead us closer to Him. I spoke to Lecrae about deconstruction and reconstruction of faith, justice, and being vulnerable. Friends, it is my great honour to introduce you to Lecrae.
Hi, Lecrae. It's lovely to meet you. So I wanted to have a quick chat with you about your album, Reconstruction. I had listened to it. Amazing. I just love the fact that you're tackling reconstruction. I would love to know, why did you choose reconstruction over living in deconstruction or just pure destruction?
That's a great question. That is a great question. I think I wanted people to understand, like, this is not about like some sort of progressive theology. This is about spiritual renewal. This is about returning your heart to the gospel and rebuilding faith on a stronger foundation. And, all throughout the Bible speaks of reconstructing things. The walls of Jerusalem needed to be reconstructed. And I feel like a lot of times we as believers have built on the right foundation, Jesus, but we've built houses with mold in the walls, or we've built houses that don't have doors and no one can get inside or go outside. We've put rules on the lawn that say, hey, if you don't cut the grass, we're not letting you in. And that's just not the way God has designed things. And so I think we need to reconstruct and rebuild to have a firmer foundation, a firmer structure on a solid foundation.
I love that. It's so good. Can you tell me, of all the tracks that are in there, there's not one that's like an album filler. Every single one has a really clear intent and purpose. What was the one that was personally most costly to you to write, whether it was from lived experience or the actual process of putting it together?
Yeah, I think it has to be Erase Me, which is almost the last track, second to last track. And it's because I had to say some hard things. I had to say some hard things, and I don't like being misunderstood. I hate being misunderstood. I hate being disliked. And I had to kill those idols and say, listen, I'm going to say some hard things on this song because these are true to me. And I had to say things like, erase the religion I get from megachurch. I go to a church with over 1,000 people. And so I'm not condemning. What I am saying is, we got to stop checking boxes. We got to stop saying, I went on Sunday, I heard the choir sing, and therefore I'm in a good spiritual place. All of that should be a celebration of the community that we're really building and the relationships we really have, and the joy that we have in our heart for Jesus and a desire to want to commune with him and celebrate him. So that was a tough song to write.
Absolutely. I appreciate the fact when you had to, in your words, kill the idols of being understood, because I can appreciate being without lived experience, being in the public eye means that you're really constantly misunderstood, which on a personal level must be excruciating. And I see you in the album nearly laying that out, not in an effort to be understood, but to like basically sort of nearly reconstruct your inner self, which right. I really is a really painful process. And what I'm really curious about is how for you in your position now, you've been doing this for quite a few years, and people look at you as a public figure, and I imagine in your own eyes, you're just Lecrae, you're you. How do you navigate the expectation that people put on you or questions they ask you, in knowing that for you, you're just Lecrae, but that people see you as like a figure that leads them? How does that work for you?
I'm so grateful for my friends. You know, I have a great community of friends who do a good job of reminding me of these things, because you are absolutely right. I just see me as me, and my kids just see me as dad, and my wife just sees me as Lecrae. But my friends say, "Hey, man, you got to remember your words carry weight. You got to remember that you're heavy-handed, right? Your shoe is a lot bigger than other people's. It's almost like not knowing your own strength, and it's like, oh, so." When I tell somebody, you know, good job, it may hit in a deeper way than I thought it would. Or if I tell somebody, you can do better than that, it may sound more crushing because of how I'm viewed. And so I have to always be reminded of that. It's not a prison that I put myself in, but it's an awareness that I give myself, to just, you know, I'm a steward. And I think that's what we have to remember. We're all stewards of what God has given us, and steward it well. If you've been given a platform, or, you know, it's like Moses, I'm giving you the stick, but do not hit that rock. You're a steward of the stick. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, in light of that, you are, when I think of you, when I think of your music and your career, without knowing you, it's really intentional. Everything you do is so intentional and thought out and well. And I, as a Jesus follower and someone in Christian music adjacent, I appreciate the fact that you just call things out like they are. I'm really curious, like, when I say like moral compass, how do you choose what things to speak into? Like, even where to, like, you choose to perform? I would say, like, we have people that ask about like the Canuck, like, sort of festivals, like stuff like that. Like I was curious, like, for you, because I know that you clearly live with such a sense of purpose. How is it that you choose what to partake in, what to sit back from, what to speak into, and where to exercise like caution or be like, I'm doing work behind the scenes? How does that work for you?
That's a great question. It's a lot of healthy tension, right? I think some of it is, you know, I've got more in the rear view than I did at 25. So I've seen some of the mistakes that I've made before, and it informs my decisions more now. So I've learned to engage the curious and not the critic, right?
Yeah,
the critic,
I love that.
if they're hell-bent on misunderstanding you, don't spend your energy trying to convince them otherwise. I've learned that the best way to deal with the fire of criticism is to just do the work and just be consistent. So, you know the work that's being done, and God knows the work. Let it go, and let the rain of your critics roll down the umbrella of your success in doing what God has called you to do. And so, and then I think the last thing is, for me, is realizing that, the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. So just don't live there. Like, reference what happened. You know what? I did do that. You're right. I did mess up there, but I don't live there. I'm going this way, and that's just part of the journey.
No, I love that. Look, I've got 2 minutes left with you. What is one thing that you want people to know about this album that maybe you haven't been asked before, or that people just don't think of?
Yeah, I think I want people to know that this is for them. It's intentional. And I want people to know that I am not standing above them, telling them what they should do. I'm walking with them. And the best analogy I can give is, my son, he turns 18, and the plan I have is for him to walk around with me and some other men. And then the final walk is with me. And I want him to understand, hey man, as a little kid, I may have walked in front of you to make sure stuff wasn't gonna hit you or get in your way. But now I'm walking next to you. And that's what this album is. I'm walking next to you. I'm on the journey with you. And we'll go through it together.
I love that. Thank you so much. One, for your time, but also for being vulnerable and open and courageous enough to share it with the world. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
This looks weird. What are you building?
Dark twisted fantasies, caste system casualties, lying lips inside the pulpit, false realities, Masoretic textual criticism, cynicism, homophobic pedophiles, double standards, agendas hidden, blasphemers, bad teachers, cash seekers, trash leaders, tricked a lot of people out the faith and they detached Jesus. I came back to rescue the people lost in the jungle, recover the fumble and let them see what the sun do. We tore down the walls of the temple but left the foundation, mold infested roof leaking politics of a proud nation. You think I'm here to flip tables, but I ain't started yet. Way too many blueprints, but I don't see many architects.
That was Lecrae. Yes, a very short and sweet episode. Lecrae was in the middle of doing press, and I was lucky enough to get a spot, and I was determined to get everything I could out of that 10 minutes, which is why you didn't hear my normal popcorn questions at the end, because I was just foot down. I was like, let's just get as much out of this as we can. And he was wonderful. He was not flustered. He was very kind. He had so much dignity about him and was so articulate. So all things which I just really respect in any guest, but I'm very grateful for your time, Lecrae. So thank you. And thank you to the team who put that interview together. I really appreciate it. Friends, you can go and connect with Lecrae right now. You'll find him online at Lecrae, Lecrae. You'll find him at lecrae.com as well. Honestly, it's pretty easy. His books are in store. His albums are in store, if people still do that. But you can also go online to your favorite streaming platform service and right now go and download or listen to Reconstruction, the album. I encourage you to do that at the start of the episode. Go and do it again, front to back, my friends. You are so welcome because it is such an important and special album. Now, fun fact, Lecrae is actually also on tour, which isn't revolutionary for people in America because artists are always on tour there. It's revolutionary for me in Australia because he's actually coming to Australia in Melbourne. So if you are a fellow Aussie like me, hey, make sure that you go and get tickets to see him in Melbourne in December because that is a real treat for us. Friends, that's all I have for you for this very short and sweet episode. Thank you for your time. Please make sure that you go and follow us on your favorite podcast platform because we do have another episode for you next week with none other than Seth Schleter. And if we're going to talk about Lecrae as someone who's really a mainstay in Christian music now, Seth is really one of the new rising stars in Christian music. His song Counting My Blessings has just gone bananas over the last few years, and I had a really great time talking to him. He's a really cool, grounded guy and has a really, really solid foundation and has got a great voice. So I cannot wait for you to hear my interview with Seth next week. Friends, make sure that you have followed us on social media at Between You and Me Pod and connect with us there. And I will see you next week. My name is Jessica Morris. Here's to hope.